7th period, but I'll also post it on the website tonight for a review. Because I'm at a cross-country meet, Miss Crow's going to help with class today, and I want you to go ahead and copy assignments into your planner and read the warm-up to the right and share your thoughts with the neighbor. And after that's done, you're going to pick up the Oval Office Analysis Worksheet and begin problem 1, and that's in the MO5 worksheet basket. At this point, I'm going to read the warm-up with you, and then I'll ask Miss Crow to pause the video. So last week we started with presidents and some data, and here's a little bit of interesting information. Theodore Roosevelt, or Teddy Roosevelt, was the youngest person to become president of the United States. He was 42 years old at the time of inauguration. Donald Trump was 70 years old at the time of his inauguration, making him the oldest person to become president of the United States. I want you to take 2 minutes to chat with your neighbor and discuss these questions. 1, how old do you think the president of the United States should be? And why do you think that? And 2, what do you think a typical age of a president of the United States is? So go ahead and pause the screen, Miss Crow, and I'll also do the same. Okay, hopefully you've had a chance to discuss this. There were lots of interesting answers in the morning class. Some people felt like the president should be in their 50s because they would have enough life experience and still would be relatively healthy. Other people said that an older president, although they're older, they may have more wisdom, but there was a concern about maybe their health. And then we talked about how people, as they age now, we have better health care, and people are living longer, so having an older president may or may not be an issue. Similarly, some people thought a younger president would be more creative and open-minded and more flexible in their thinking. So we're just interested in these questions. It's an interesting thing to talk about before we continue this data collection. And then I'm wondering if you might share your thoughts on a typical age of a president and what you came up with, because the next thing we're going to do is we're going to look at this packet, this Oval Office analysis, and study it so we maybe can answer that question. Over here, you'll see that this Oval Office analysis, it has all of the presidents of the United States, and we see that not only is there information about when they were born and the year that they were inaugurated, but also if they are no longer alive, what year they died and how old they were. So take a minute to look that over, and I'll ask Ms. Crow to pause this, and then when everybody's had maybe a minute or 2 to look at this, Ms. Crow, press play again. So hopefully you found some interesting questions. We'll be able to discuss more about the details of these presidents tomorrow. Today our goal is to take this information and create a few different data displays. The first one is going to be the president's ages at inauguration line plot. We've practiced line plots already, but just a reminder, you want to be organized with your work, and you want to order your work so it is lined up well. I'm going to start, and then I'll ask Ms. Crow to pause again. So if I make this my tool, just move this a little bit and make these dots a little thicker, not too thick. Let's see how this looks. Yeah, that's perfect. Okay, I'm going to read from my data sheet, and I see that George Washington, first of all, we want to make sure we read the title. This is about the president's ages at inauguration. So George Washington was inaugurated when he was 57. I'm going to put a dot there. John Adams was inaugurated when he was 61. You could also use X's. Thomas Jefferson was inaugurated at 57, so we want to have even and consistent spacing. James Madison was inaugurated at 57. James Monroe was inaugurated at 58. John Adams was inaugurated at 57. I think at this point I'll pause, and then you guys can continue this. But remember, well, let me just do a little bit more. After John Adams, we have Andrew Jackson, and that's at 62. I think what I want to show you is that it is important that that dot is lined up with this dot over here. Remember, each of your dots should be nice and at the same height. So go ahead and pause this. Okay, so hopefully you have a line plot that looks something like this. And if we take a look at some student work, it will look more like that. What I wanted to do was take a look at the next thing, if you haven't already done, before we analyze the student work a little too much, I want you to just take a look at this line plot, and let's make some suggestions and how could I improve. So when I look at my line plot, although I think I have some good things here, I could probably make some improvements. And so if we just take a look at kind of a thin, maybe light blue line, and sort of draw a line through my dots. You don't actually want to, you could use basically a ruler, but I'm going to use a line just to show you that there are some improvements that I could make here. If I go straight through my row 1, that's pretty good. All of my dots are pretty lined up. But when I go to row 2, maybe this one's a little high. We don't want to be too concerned. Sorry about that. But we just want them to be nice and organized. So, so look at your paper and see if you need to clean it up a bit. And then I want you to go ahead and create the tally, group frequency table tally. So there's the age of inauguration, all the different people in the 40s. So there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 people there. So we would just have 9 tally marks. So if you could go ahead and finish that. Okay, so after you finish that, your work should look like this tally, or this student work. And take a minute if you need to pause here and correct your work. Now, if you turn the page, I think I have some other sample work here. Oops, not there yet. Sorry. If you turn the page to this blank page, you're going to use your work on this page here with the work on your stem and leaf plot. Go to a 2-page view. And you're going to make a stem and leaf plot next. So I'll remind you how to do that. So we're going to take the data on the left from the table, from the line plot, and add it to the stem and leaf plot on the right. So for example, I see a 42 and then a 43. So in my stem and leaf plot, I'm going to write 42, 43, and then I see two 46s, and I'm going to continue my stem and leaf plot. So I'll pause, and then when maybe that will take 4 to 5 minutes, and then Ms. Crow will start the video again and you can compare your work. Here's an example of student work that has completed stem and leaf plot correctly. What is nice about the work here is, again, her numbers are lined up nice and neat. So if I were to move this yellow line across the page, the numbers are lined up. So for example, if we look at this one, you can see the numbers are nice and lined up. That's a little clearer because it's in pencil. If we go a little farther, this one, although the numbers are correct, they aren't as easy to read and they're not as lined up. So we want our stem and leaf plot to look like this. So take a minute to fix yours up. Okay, the next thing we're going to do, and this will probably be about the end of class, is we're going to wrap up and we're going to make a different type of stem and leaf plot. So if you look a little bit further on your worksheet, we're going to skip the graph part here, and we're going to look at this other stem and leaf plot. So I'm going to put it side by side, and take a dual page display here. We're going to take this stem and leaf plot on the left and spread the data out to this stem and leaf plot on the right. So when I zoom into this stem and leaf plot on the left, what we want to do is I want you to split the data so into two groups of 40s. 40 to 44 would be right here, and then 45 to 50 there. So on this next stem and leaf plot, you're going to divide your data so it's easier to read. And it should look something like this. "42, 43, but we'll put the 46, 46, 47, 47, 48, 9, 9. And now we'll do the same thing in the 50s. We're going to go 50 to 54, right here. 50, 51, 51, 51, 51, 51, 52, 52, 54, 4, 4, 4, 4. But then the 55, the next set of data, will start here. So finish that, and your homework is on the board. And that's as much of the worksheet that we're going to use today. And we will address questions tomorrow.